It is said that Satan's greatest trick was convincing the world that he doesn't exist. If Satan is one of many names for this negative aspect of our collective consciousness, then he has done a damn good job, as far as I can tell, at least in certain circles. This Satan, or Antichrist, has spent his time keeping us trapped in a vibrational prison, feeding from our hate, misery, anger, fear, guilt, greed. But other than to feed, why? Simple. It is bringing us into itself to be one with it and growing with each soul that it takes. Its main goal is to grow, and we are the means by which to achieve this. In order for us to be assimilated, you might say, it must keep us away from love, compassion and true enlightenment, Dharma as some call it. This has been easy for it, a walk in the park so far. However, the coming new age will see the development of another side of this Antichrist manipulation, a fake spiritual dawning, and with that fake spiritual dawning, a new global religion that will preach love, compassion and enlightenment and all manner of truths, while all the while deceiving you with falsehoods that are in fact the opposite of love, compassion and enlightenment, such as detachment, or in basic terms, walking around with your head up your arse. The ego is a prime example of how we're manipulated, and this cannot be denied. So, naturally, this new global religion will tell you this, except there is a catch. Instead of explaining that moderation is the key to balance your ego with your spirit or higher self, they'll say completely dissolve the ego. So, say goodbye to your individual personality and hello to Antichrist consciousness, which of course they will claim is Christ consciousness, because that's what Antichrists do. Being detached and apathetic will simply lead to being cold and callous, eliminating compassion and enlightenment and love, of course, the very things that these false prophets will claim that they're all about. Only covering all aspects, and the wishy-washy New Age posse are, as with all Illuminati creations, just a means to an end, and that end is oneness with Lucifer or Antichrist consciousness, if you prefer. So, there is oneness with Christ or oneness with Antichrist. Which do you want sitting in Solomon's temple? And that would be us. In the Islamic holy book Hadith, it states, among the signs will be the emergence of the beast, and he will carry the ring of Solomon and the staff of Moses. Well, yeah, he will carry the ring of Solomon, because rings are a symbol of Saturn, which represents the lifting of the seventh veil of Isis, or the seventh chakra. In other words, illumination, or oneness. The seal of Solomon and the planet Saturn are synonymous, and another name for Saturn, or El, is the Lord of the Rings. Hopefully, you should now understand why J.R. Tolkien wrote, "One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them." It should also be obvious why there is a Lord of the Rings instalment called The Two Towers. Now, as far as the beast carrying with him the staff of Moses, this simply means the serpent energy, or the kundalini, rising up the spine and activating the seven chakras and opening your third eye or pineal gland, as the symbol is obviously the caduceus. In other words, illumination or oneness. This really comes down to a choice, either oneness with positive, Christ, or oneness with Antichrist, negative. If you need any further proof that there are two onennesses, look no further than the number that they used to refer to this oneness, the number of the master vibration, 11. There are two onennesses, and they quite clearly know and understand this, as the number itself is obviously two ones, plain as day for all to see. So, we have seen how Antichrist consciousness achieves oneness with you through the third eye or illumination, and of course Christ consciousness is achieved in the same way, as Jesus says in Matthew 6:22. The light of the body is the eye, and if therefore your eye be single, your whole body shall be full of light. Furthermore, the third eye or pineal gland is activated when the lights go out, and once again the Bible makes reference to this fact, as Jesus says in Matthew 4:16. The people which sat in darkness saw great light. So there you have it. Jesus was clearly at one with Christ consciousness, and he knew and quite happily told us all that the pineal gland or third eye was the means to achieve this. It is the water door which can connect you to either Christ or Antichrist. Now, Sumerian tablets, which depict the gods who came down to make us in their image, the Anunnaki, show images of these so-called gods holding staffs with pine cones attached, and with pine cones on the heads. The pine cone being the active pineal gland. These are the guys that enslaved us, so you can bet on them being demonic or antichrists. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth makes reference to the Anunnaki as serpent-headed, so in other words, full Kundalini activation. The Babylonian god Tammuz can be seen with the pine cone, and the Egyptian god Osiris as well. The Egyptian pharaohs, which are of course the same bloodlines in power today, are depicted with serpents coming out of their heads, symbolising Kundalini activation. According to Zachariah Sitchin's translation of the Sumerian clay tablets, the Anunnaki came here to mine gold, and to do this they created a slave race. The god who created this gold mining slave race was named Enki. Enki was considered to have been god of smithcraft and alchemy. Now, as we discussed earlier, alchemy is the transmutation of one substance into another. The most commonly practiced transmutation, the holy grail of all transmutations, is turning base metals, i.e. lead, into gold. However, this begs the question of if gold was really what they are after, then why not simply create all the gold that they want from base metals themselves and get the hell out of there when they have it? Surely, for masters in the field of alchemy, this would be a piece of piss. The answer to all of this is that in alchemy, the impure soul and lead are interchangeable, as are the pure soul and gold. Essentially, lead is our current state, and if you are of a religious persuasion, you would know this as sin. Gold, on the other hand, is, as you guessed, illumination. Now, we know that their brand of illumination involves oneness with Antichrist consciousness, so let's cut to the chase here. Mining gold is mining souls and changing those souls to their negative image or vibration, or like they say, making us in their image. We are literally being harvested and then fed to this demonic Antichrist consciousness, which grows with each soul it takes, making us quite literally food for the gods. Now, that being said, there is of course nothing evil about alchemy in and of itself, but in the case of the Illuminati, is a different story, as their goal is, as we know, oneness with Antichrist consciousness. There are many different names for the great work, i.e. the Magnum Opus, the Alchemical Wedding, Q33. It all means the same thing, and that is illumination. The alchemical term for this process of illumination is the Philosopher's Stone, also known as the Water Stone. The Philosopher's Stone is yet another way of describing the rising of your Kundalini serpent, as the symbol clearly demonstrates, or building the middle pillar. Its alternative name, being the Water Stone, is interesting, considering that they refer to anything below 33 degrees as just ice, as I stated earlier. Since there was an instalment of the Harry Potter films called the Philosopher's Stone, I think is interesting that he has what looks like some variation of the Suilla rune on his head. The great work is perhaps the apotheosis of all alchemical transmutations. Now, I'm going to take you through the steps of this using an example of vampires. Vampires are comparable to the satanic elite in so many ways that I feel the idea of vampires was a direct message from our own collective consciousness about what is in fact happening to us on a macrocosmic or soul level. It's only fitting that consciousness would choose this method, as vampires would be the microcosmic representation of the macrocosmic negative collective side of consciousness. So in English, that's as above, so below. To begin with, we have 1. A vampire cannot enter your home without first being invited. This is key, as evil cannot enter Solomon's temple, and that's us, without our personal consent or our allowance, i.e. we choose to deviate from the path of love, compassion and enlightenment. This is really all it takes to invite evil into your life. It cannot simply force itself into your consciousness, because consciousness, by its very nature, has free will. However, this of course don't stop those who have allowed evil into their lives from affecting, hurting, killing those who haven't, so don't confuse the two. When I say evil can't enter your life without invitation, I mean it can't become the driving force in your consciousness or sit in your temple, so to speak. A vampire will often use trickery and deceit in order to fool its victim into allowing it in, At times it will use hypnosis by glamouring a victim with its eyes. Evil operates in exactly this manner, using tools such as the TV, music and popular culture in general to glamourize and glorify all that is bad, to shape opinion and create consensus. Money, greed, power, materialism, violence, and the bombardment and constant emphasis on detached sex. Cultures are created, and the peer pressure that exists within each separate culture is strengthened by the public figureheads of each of these cultures, be it musicians, actors, models, or otherwise, all of which are there to make you lust for the dark side of all things. So they're basically tricking, deceiving and glamouring you into allowing evil, adoring your very own soul. The decisions we make are our decisions, as all must adhere to the laws of free will. And make no mistake, evil may not like the laws of free will, but it has to abide by them regardless of this. And since it does this, it will always consider its methods as fair game. The hypnotic trance that a vampire can hook you in with, a glamour, bears even further similarities to recruitment techniques used by evil when the notion of becoming at one with it is examined. As we know, the occult fraternities do exactly this at this stage known as death rebirth. Symbolically, you die, the death of the ego, and are reborn at one with the all, or Pan.